risk Louie Rivers here at MSU with a joint appointment at ESPP in the School of Criminal Justice. And a risk analysis, a police officer, and an environmentalist all went to a bar. It's not a real joke, but it kind of explains all the stuff I do, or try to do. So I'll go over my background a little bit. I have a very multidisciplinary background. Biology from Kentucky State University, then I went on to Ohio State for my master's and PhD. My master's focused on environmental education, and my PhD focused more on decision making and risk perception, and both were in the School of Natural Resources. Then briefly on professional background, I worked for the Forest Service when I was through undergrad. That's how I paid my way through undergrad, got loans. And in the Forest Service, I worked on bear trails. I never actually saw a bear, but I put up a lot of cans. And I also did basic ecology classes for children when I was at the Forest Service. Then I went to Ohio State, and I was a TA and I was a GA or graduate assistant, but I didn't think of putting those up for jobs. I should have. But I did do that. Then after that, I graduated and went to work at the National Science Foundation for 2 years, where I worked in 3 different programs: decision, risk management sciences, economics, and then innovation and organizational sciences. And basically there, we worked on basic science and the review process, and I was at the very bottom of the totem pole. So I read a lot of bad grants. Then finally I showed up here, and at the bottom again. So on my research interests, I'm really interested in risk perception and decision making, and it was cool having Arika go before me because she brought the whole idea of decision making. I think that's going to go across all the presentations. I hope so. Lord, don't let me down. But I focus more on, it's kind of strange to have these points, so it's all risk perception decision making. I'm very interested in this, especially on the individual level. And so in a couple of different contexts, criminology and the decision sciences, and really I've just been introduced to the world of criminology this past year, and there's so much that we can do together, decision sciences and the School of Criminal Justice, and especially in an environmental context, and I'll get to that later on. Then I guess this kind of cuts across all my interests, really focusing on minority and marginalized populations, and looking at how we can help improve the decision making in these populations, and also study some of the pitfalls these populations encounter, which I think are different from other populations. And then finally look at this idea of environmental justice. And I think traditionally environmental justice has been more of an advocacy frame, which I think is important, but I think we also need more of a cognitive frame, where we just kind of study the processes underlying what's going on with environmental justice. Both are important, but I like to focus on the second one. Then finally, this idea of chronic loss, or how people make decisions when they've lost a lot, which is more theoretical, and I worked on my PhD and I'd like to get back to now, or when I can find funding for it. So I'm going to go over the 2 current research projects I'm working on, and then maybe some stuff I'm teaching. Right now, I think this is maybe the 3rd year. It was like the 15th year I've been working on this, which is impossible, but this is the 2nd year I've been working on a periodic food safety project with Ohio State University and Purdue University, and Kentucky State University, and to some extent MSU since I'm here. And we're looking at microbial food safety, hazards to fresh and fresh cut fruits and vegetables. And everyone's heard about the E. coli that happened last year, and I'm sure some outbreak will happen this year. Peanut butter and salmonella happened earlier. And this summer something else will happen, and 2 or 3 people will die and it'll be on the news again. But basically we're looking at, a lot of times when you look at the news, you just look at the big industrial farmers, like the huge spinach producers, but we're focusing more on the high-risk audiences, which are mid-scale and small farmers. And BMPs are best management practices. So we want to look at the best management practices for avoiding microbial contamination. And particularly, the part of the project I'm interested in that I'm working on focuses on Amish farmers and black farmers in Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. So we're looking at what do they know about microbial contamination, what practices do they use to prevent it, and so forth, and what do they have what type of support do they have to avoid the microbial contamination? So the project is basically mental models, which I will get to very shortly, but I'm just kind of going to let it hang there for a little while. So we're doing mental models of farmers and consumers. The mental models of the farmers were actually done last summer. And we're going to use these mental models to develop surveys, which are being done this summer. And then eventually we want to use the results from those surveys to develop risk communication processes for farmers and for consumers.